Hello, friends, and welcome back to Pod Return to the Waking Sands. We are a Final Fantasy XIV companion podcast where we explore the lore and story of Thanalan and beyond. My name is Jen, and I'm joined by my co-host and researcher.
I'm Levi.
Hello, Levi.
Hi, Jen. Today, we are playing through the Cutter's Cry optional dungeon.
Yeah, just a little baby episode. Baby dungeon.
How's it going, Jenner?
It's fine. We are both getting over a cold. So our voices might be a little messed up and there might be a little bit more throat clearing than normal. But we tried to hold off as long as we could so that our voices would recover. But, you know, it's as good as it's going to get at this point.
Yeah, we got to preserve some backlog.
Yeah.
Also, another note, Jen, before we get going. We were recently, at least recently in the release schedule, complaining about, on the Scholar episode, about the 2 fairy buttons.
Yeah.
And in the most recent patch, they have removed the Celine button.
It was like literally a week later.
Well, that episode came out, I think, after the patch did.
That's probably true. Yeah. So we recorded it, and then a week later, they fucking removed the button, and I went off on the button.
Way to make us fucking assholes,
yeah.
Yoshi.
God damn it.
Anyway, your prayers have been heard. At least your complaints have been heard.
Our complaints were validated after the fact.
So now you get to use the very intuitive pet glamour system to make your fairy appear to be either Eos or Celine or Carbuncle or whatever.
Very intuitive, yes.
The old /pet glamour, pet
quote,
size, yeah.
Space, quote, capital, whatever.
Yeah, it's
I have to
so
Google
clunky.
It every single time.
Fair. I would have to as well. Anyway, so on to some Cutter's Cry.
Yeah.
Cutter's Cry is a level 38 optional dungeon. It also has enemies that can appear in your Grand Company's hunting log, so be sure to check that first if you want to be efficient. You can also skip enemies in this dungeon, so it wouldn't hurt to give your party a heads up.
Party.
If you need kills here, so they don't skip past the kills in your log. Cutter's Cry is a cave system in Thanalan, sought only by the ignorant and foolish. It's your standard haunted cave. None who ever enter return. You can sometimes hear their tortured cries if you listen closely, yada yada, the whole deal. It's called Cutter's Cry because the cave is near a path that was used by woodcutters. This must be a pre-calamity path though, because right now it is by nowhere but Ant City.
Yeah. Yep. A hell's brood holes. I mean, all of this is, stuff you'd like to avoid.
And there's no reason to come here ever, actually.
Not really. No, because the days of these bands of mercenaries roving around, like, trying to make a quick buck off of this shit. It made sense if this was right next to, like, a major logging trail or whatever, and they would have to, cull these beasts all the time, but that's not a thing anymore. So there's just one dude hanging out saying, like, don't go in there. So you'll find this quest. It's a blue quest in the Sapphire Avenue Exchange in Ul'dah. And you'll find it, you'll get it from a man named Sibbald.
Sibbald the Stoic.
The Stoic. And, well, he's not labeled as the Stoic, but he will reveal that as he's talking to you. And as there's quite a bit of text that he leaves out before you start. Because, I mean, that's all the story that there is, honestly. It's just like, this is a little baby quest. He basically kind of launches in, I imagine, like, we're just, like, browsing around the shops in Ul'dah. And this guy is like, woe is me, 30 summers passed, and I still am saddened by the loss of my comrades. And like, what's that? And he's like, oh, well, let me tell you.
He's just one of those people that just is desperate to tell anyone who can their life story.
Yeah, and it'll make sense why. I mean, this has probably been eating him up inside for a million years. So he used to be a mercenary in what's called the Darklight Raiders, which is a really cool name. Really cool. Again, back in the day, obviously pre-calamity, when shit like that was still happening and bands of mercenaries were still needed all the time. And he rattles off a bunch of names of his comrades.
Before us adventurers started doing all this work for nearly free.
You know what? Get with the times, man. Or the times will get you. Anyway, I learned that from Gordon Ramsay. So he gives us a little background information. 30 years past. We were rocking and rolling, man. We were making money hand over fist as mercenaries until we entered that godforsaken hole in the ground called Cutter's Cry. And my pals, like Shifty and Bucky and Lucky and Plucky and whatever, like he lists off all of these names, like the 7 people in his team that died in that excursion. And he says that the Chimera spared only him, and spared him on purpose, so that he could go back to the world and warn everybody, don't go there, because the Chimera will fuck you up. So for 30 years, every year, he goes back to the entrance of Cutter's Cry and leaves a bouquet of flowers in honor of his fallen comrades. But today, he is too old and frail. He can't make the journey on his own, and he asks us to do it for him. I'm like, sure, man, we can do that. We can leave some flowers. So there we go. We're going to teleport to Blackbrush Station and check a little bit into Antland. It looks really spooky.
This place is really cool. It's so organic. It looks like a blown up, as in like a magnified anthill. Mm-hmm. All of the passages have that kind of like shaped sand look.
It's like a bull nose. It's like a rounded, it's very clearly carved out by an animal kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the holes are huge because the ants are huge. Yeah, pretty cool.
I don't know if there's ever any reason to go here.
Hunting log, maybe.
Maybe. I don't recall having gone through on this playthrough, so if there is a hunting log,
I don't even know if there are fates there.
Yeah, like this.
It's no man's
there's some
land.
level 12 antlings that are milling about there, and they're aggressive. So if you're in the level 10-ish range, they will attack you, but not right now because we are way higher than them. They know we're going to fuck them up, so they stay clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, this place is very aesthetically cool, though. I like the area. I wish that they had done more with it or used this aesthetic elsewhere. I mean, it looks ominous the way this whole riddled mound of sand looms over you.
Mm-hmm. And it's super dark. You can't see in there. Mm-hmm.
Here we find Norman. Who's a flame private just hanging out. He's like in the acid of nowhere past all these antlings and telling people to not go further, I guess.
Yeah, what a shit job.
Because like if for some reason you ignored the lack of points of interest whatsoever and the hostile fauna.
You wandered there by accident or by folly. And he's there to turn your ass around. I mean, he is a private, so yeah, this is a private level kind of shit job.
Yep.
We lay our bouquet of lilies down in remembrance, and we check in with Norman, and he's like, yeah, I know of, well, it's like you hear that snuffling and snorting and whatever, like the burst of a flame. Yeah, that's the Chimera roaming around in there, and if you want to go in, like, great, but I mean, just don't. There's all sorts of beasties in there, and it's a fucking labyrinth of sand caves and ant holes, and it's like a fire swamp. Seriously. He knows of the Darklight Raiders.
Yes.
And his recollection of Sybild's excursion is a little different from Sybild's. Basically, the legend goes, the only reason Sybild survived was because he hid under the corpse of one of his colleagues and watched as everybody else got ripped to shreds by the Chimera. And that way he could survive because his wife was pregnant at the time and he wanted to see his son born. And he's like, yeah, so, he was kind of caught in an awkward position there. Do I be a tremendous coward so that I can see the birth of my son and therefore make my son get raised by a craven bastard? Or do I die? And, he's not very flattering in how he speaks about Sybild. And he's like, I'm just glad I never have to make that decision, and that is why I will never go in there.
Dungeon unlocked. This is hilarious. There is no reason to go in here.
There's no reason! Absolutely fucking none. Like, Sybild, it's hanging out, it's fine. The beasts don't wander outside and terrorize Blackbrush Station or anything else. It's like, it's cool.
Sybild says, don't go in there. Norman says, don't go in there. We're going in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just
for what?
Everest defense.
All right. I guess we decide that just the fact that the Chimera exists, we need to kill it.
Yep.
It's caused so much heartache. We're going to take this upon ourselves.
Sure.
I guess.
Two guys know it exists.
Yeah. Whatever. Here we go.
So we party up and in we go. Cutter's Cry is a weird dungeon. The first two portions are a bunch of disconnected sandy caves that you travel between by like jumping in these shifting sands, these sinkholes.
Yeah.
And then you swim through the sand or get pulled down by the sand and end up in another cave and repeat 5 or 6 times.
3 or 4.
Sure, whichever.
Yeah, let's just jump into some quicksand. For new players, this is not an intuitive dungeon.
No, Jin has some trauma about this dungeon.
Oh my god. 1, I haven't been playing this game for 10 years, okay? So the map or the optimal path has not been ingrained in my head. I did not grow up with this game. I started it as a middle-aged person, and this stuff just doesn't stick. So even if I do this dungeon 5 times as a DPS, my trauma is related to me tanking, of course. Which means I have to know where to go. And I don't know where the fuck to go. The first 2 areas are wide open. You can go anywhere. Which means you could be pulling all sorts of mobs and shit that you don't have to. And sometimes other players will be super impatient with you. And they will run to where they know the shifting sands will appear and like bail. And then you're still fighting shit without a healer because they were in such a fucking rush. Didn't feel good, man. Didn't feel good. So now you kind of know how to go. In the latter half of the dungeon, there is a very clear path. Like, that's a dead end. You go this way. So much better. But those first 2 areas, man, it's just if the other PCs aren't chill, it's really uncomfortable. And I can't let it go. I just can't. Like, it hurts my feelings. Like, I feel bad.
But our tank today for the podcast run, he was super slow and steady. He was doing single pulls.
It was great because, 1, if they're not super familiar with the map or they're a little bit more cautious as a tank. You know, all of these things, you don't know what they're fucking going through. Like, be patient. It's cool. And, of course, he's probably doing the same thing. Like, I'm not going to assume these people, because there were some sprouts. I think he was the only non-sprout.
We were the sprouts.
It was like 3 or 4 players were sprouts. So, yeah, that's really nice. Kind of gauging our skill level and whatever. And then the healer got fucking busted and died, and they're like, oh shit, I was trying to drink my coffee and then I died. And we're like, yeah, been there. So I think maybe the tank was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy a really easy run because I know he's trying to drink his coffee. And that was the vibe, and it was so great. It was just a really good run.
For the first portion, you have to kill every enemy in the room before the sands will start shifting and you can dive in them.
Yeah.
These are some pretty basic, just kind of sandy and rocky caves. We have antlings. I guess in here they're myrmidons, which are big ants either way.
Yeah.
And bats. And then we run into like a basilisk and a couple bombs later on in the stretch. We just pull them in and kill them. And after we kill the first wave, there's like a cry or something. The Cutter's Cry.
The Cutter's Cry?
And then we get rushed. That's an exaggeration. More enemies appear and they'll
find you.
And they find us.
And you gotta fight them. Yeah.
Then the sands begin shifting. We dive in and repeat. That's the first 2 rooms. The last section of the stretch is a bigger cave. It's more of a stone cave with stone columns and some twists and turns and 1 optional path. We fight through it and end up at the first boss, the Myrmidon Princess.
Yeah.
Which is
big
a
mama ant.
Bigger ant.
She's pretty straightforward. She does like the call to her people again, and an ad comes in, but pretty fucking easy.
Yeah. If you're not geared or your DPS is on the lower side, then the ads will be more of a problem because there are 3 ad types. The one that matters is the Myrmidon Marshal, which is a medium-sized giant ant.
Is that the one we got?
Yes.
Okay.
And that one does more damage, and also it will heal the queen too. Sorry, heal the princess, not the queen. Heal the princess. So you want to focus that one.
Yeah.
If you're doing ads.
He doesn't have a lot of health. I think he went down really fast.
No, despite our very chill run, our DPS was busting. So like we had the princess almost dead before the marshal even got into the fight.
Yeah, she was at like 20%, and we're like, well, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we take out the princess and press on, and now we get to the rooms where there is no kill requirement before the sands open. So if you want to, you can just rush to the sand spot and jump in.
Yeah, you
but
can
that makes
just sneak
Jen
around.
sad.
Well, I didn't know that. So I'm just like, do. I'm kind of skirting the wall, I think, the first time. And that you're still going to pull like a bird and a cactuar or whatever. But that still was just like super frustrating to that one healer. fuck you, this is a room, we don't have to fight anything if we don't want to. Good luck. And if you're spotted by a mob, obviously you can't jump down into the quicksand. You got to deal with it. And that's a little hairy when 2 of your team, including your healer, have already moved on. And it's just you, the tank, and 1 DPS trying not to die. Hated that. And then when we jumped through the quicksand, it was just like really awkward. we pop up and we're all like, hey, so you kind of left us hanging back there. Let's just move on, shall we? Yeah. And so it was like at the end of the run, like nobody said a fucking word to each other. I always GG. I'm always like, GG, thank you. Always. But everybody else was just so like pissed off in some capacity.
That may be some projection too. They could have been like, whatever, peace. Sometimes people just bail.
No, my feelings were reeling at that point. I was embarrassed. This is my responsibility. I'm the tank.
I'd say in general, it's not worth making some djinn sad to save you a couple seconds on your dungeon run.
It's like, yes, understood. You've done this 120 times since you were 13 years old. And now you're a bitter 22 and you're applying to jobs willy-nilly, and it's been 9 months since you graduated, and you can't, you know what, you've got bitterness in your heart.
This is a very detailed narrative you've woven about this one person that was a jerk one time.
Yeah, they've got some issues, and this is how they chose to exercise them. Whatever, I hope they get help. Or a job. Whatever it is that they need.
So in these segments, this changes from those kind of barren sandy caverns to oases, actually. This is like the Totorak equivalent in Thanalan. Because in there we had these shafts of light opening up from above, shining into these watery basins below, and growth springing out in them. And the same thing happens here, but with desert plants.
Yeah.
So there are trees rising up from the oasis. There are cacti all on the shoreline. And we have a lot more diversity of life here, too. There are cactuars. It's really pretty. Got some crabs, vultures.
Yep.
It's good shit. So, yeah, this place looks great. The third portion is also pretty cool, too. But this is probably the prettiest section of the dungeon.
Yeah.
Anyway, we take it slow and steady, and we don't abandon our party mates and hop into the sand.
Ample time for sips of coffee.
We arrive at the second boss, the giant tunnel worm.
Yeah, this guy's a piece of shit.
Wow.
He's fun, though, I think. Yeah, giant ass worm.
This is a big sand worm. It's like the Final Fantasy XIV worm, but really big. So it's got kind of like a toothy maw.
Yeah.
And also a ridged carapace back and orange glowing ridges on its back. This guy has a cleaving lightning attack, so do not stand on the tank. Also, it has a spicy dot that you can Asuna off, and you probably should, as it will do some damage. Otherwise, the main mechanic here is that the guy will dive underground periodically, and there are 2 moves it does while it's submerged.
So the one is, when he dives down, you gotta kind of scan around the arena and look for these antlion kind of burrow marks and avoid those at all costs. You will see like a path that he is taking. Run away, because then he's gonna pop out and be like, whoa, and he's gonna get you. And then the other one, I still don't know how to fucking avoid this one.
Run away. So he will make a giant whirlpool.
But it's hard!
Sucking all the party members into the center of the arena.
Oh, and it'll get you.
And all you do is that you find the direct path away from the center, and you press forward, and as soon as you stop being pulled in, you will start moving out, and then you'll be safe. If you are concerned, you can pop sprint too.
Assuming you haven't already.
Or if you're running away ASAP, you will not get hit. If you do not do so, you'll get got.
Yeah, I got. This is almost like a one-shot, this damage. I got knocked down from full to like 10%. It was really bad. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Little cleavy action, but like he dives down, and watch out for that.
So now with the second boss down, the dungeon changes form dramatically. I think that we have traveled from central to northern Thanalan underground, because northern Thanalan, we've not reached it yet in the main story, but this is the ceruleum-rich portion of Thanalan.
Yeah.
The air there is tinged blue with all this ceruleum vapor, and underground is the exact same thing. It's a series of these raised stone paths winding through this cavern, and there are geysers that erupt in blue flame, blue ceruleum explosions. The enemies here are all very earthen aspected, so golems and spriggans.
Yeah, we are deep underground now. This is like Carlsbad Caverns shit. It's very rocky. It's clearly over the millennia has been like carved out by underground, either like ceruleum or water sources, and that's what it looks like. And these ceruleum pools will explode and they will hit you and they will hurt you. It's not a ton of damage, but it's kind of embarrassing when you get caught in them. And Mr. Levi over here got caught half a dozen times. I'm like, stop embarrassing me.
Wow. Maybe once.
No, minimum twice.
Oh, no.
Minimum twice. And I'm like, bro, knock it off. It is not a lot of damage, but it's still embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Well, Jen, you are ruining my dungeon run.
I know.
I'm going to have to go and have a cutter's cry.
Oh my God.
And this section is mildly maze-like. There are a few wrong turns you can take, but...
You pop that map button and you'll be able to see very clearly where to go and where not to go.
On their first playthrough, though, it will not be mapped.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep. But, it's fine. It's not like a massive open space like the first two areas, which is the worst. Absolute worst. At least these are like clear paths.
And as we get close to the boss room, we start seeing these glowing red fungi. The boss cavern itself is really visually detailed. It's really cool. It's this giant irregular cavern with these stalagmites and stone columns breaking up the silhouette, with more of these fungi who are clustered around the edges. Mm-hmm. So it is not your circle or square boss arena. It is super detailed. And I love it when they do this in these places because it's a lot more immersive than here's a circle to fight the boss in.
Correct. Yeah. This definitely looks like the Chimera's lair.
And it is.
And it is, because it's littered with skeletons. Death awaits you all!
If you have any interest in deep dungeons, you have to learn this fight.
Yes.
Because these things are all up in those deep dungeons.
They love that. Ram's voice, dragon's breath, ram's breath. Like, learn that shit.
The main mechanic, like Jin is saying, is the voice attack. So voice is an untelegraphed cast bar. You can see the cast name, but you cannot see any markers on the ground saying where you're going to get fucked up. The Chimera, it will sometimes either cast Dragon's Voice or Ram's Voice. When it casts Dragon's Voice, dive on in, close to the boss, because it will blast the entire room in lightning.
A donut. Lightning donut. Mm-hmm.
Except for a small circle of safety underneath it.
I think the small circle of safety is about the diameter of like max melee.
You want to be inside max melee.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. You don't have to be inside the hitbox, but it's so, yeah.
And when it casts Ram's Voice, run away, as it's going to drop a circle of ice at its feet.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear my mnemonic for the Minotaurs, Jen.
For the Minotaurs?
Yeah.
Like swinge and swing and what is it that they do?
We're not going to fight a Minotaur for a while, but they have swing and swipe.
Swipe.
And they are very different, and especially in the most recent Deep Dungeon, they will one-shot you.
Yeah.
It took me a long time, such a digression, but whatever. It took me a long time.
Right, because we're not fighting Minotaurs in this dungeon. What are you doing?
To figure out how to tell the swing and swipe apart, but I have a system now, and I will hold that until we meet a Minotaur.
What the fuck?
We call that a teaser in the business, Jen.
Fuck you.
Anyway, so we learned the dragon and ram attacks, and our party actually had forgotten it, so...
It was really cute. The healer was like, okay, so is it like red in and blue out? I'm like, more like blue out, purple in. God, it's purple. And he's like, I haven't done this dungeon in like 2 years. Like, amazing. You remembered there was like that kind of mechanic at least.
You can look at the color of the Chimera's eyes too and see, but that is way too hard for me to see when there's so much going on.
No, I read the cast.
Yep.
And if you can get into your HUD, go into those settings, and the cast bar for bosses or enemies or whatever, make that thing huge.
Yeah, I have mine at 180% of its original size, and I've moved it down to be like right
more
at the
in
top
your field
of
vision.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that shit will kill
totally
you
helpful.
in later content if you don't know what's going on.
You have to know what is being cast so that you can prepare. It's a good habit.
Anyway, that Chimera PSA out of the way. Mm-hmm. Those are the signature mechanics that will kill you and have no telegraph. The others are easier to deal with. The Chimera's heads also have breath attacks. Those will hit the quadrant the head's by. So like the dragon will breathe on the dragon side and the ram will breathe on the ram side. But those have ground markers, so you can just dodge them, no problem.
Yeah.
And the final mechanic here is cacophony, which marks one player with a target marker. And a ball of lightning will appear and chase that player around for a short time, then explode. Lead that ball away from the party. When it explodes, it's going to mess some people up. So let it explode harmlessly in the surrounding cave, not on the party, please.
Yes. Take it away and then come back for heals.
Yep. We learn our Chimera lessons and we clear the boss, and that's Cutter's Cry.
Mm-hmm.
Take that, Chimera. I'll teach you to live peacefully in this cave.
Yeah.
Not bothering anyone.
For at least 30 years. Yeah. Fuck you.
I don't think we'll actually have a wrap-up segment today, Jen, unless you have some deep other gripe to drop here.
Nope. Sybil has some demons and he's got to work that shit out on his own and whatever.
I'm sorry for your mechanical trauma with navigation, but I find the second and third bosses to be pretty fun, actually.
Yeah.
The dungeon layout is not great, but the mechanics of these boss fights, I think, are fun.
Yeah. First half can go fuck itself. Latter half is totally fine.
Great.
Yeah.
That's the review. Next time, we are talking about the Ixel tribe quests. See you then. Jin has a guilty look.
No, I just...
Skeptical look.
Nope. This is like the Beast Tribe stuff, because we're going to talk about the entire narrative, the entire story arc in one go, which means we have to do all of that busy work from start to finish to get from like unknown to like, beloved in the Ixal tribe, which is, it's like weeks in the making. So y'all better fucking appreciate it.
Jen says, like the episode or get fucked.
It's so much work.
We'll save the rest of that griping for the actual episode, but
Great
there's
story,
a preview.
Though. Great story.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, that's a teaser too, Jen.
Oh.
Love it.
Look at me.
All right, take us out.
And that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for listening, as always. Shout out to J Scratch. Bro leaves a comment on like every single fucking episode, and we love it. And we've gotten some really, really lovely emails from some of you, and it just makes us so happy. So, keep that shit up. And as long as we just want to make sure that we're giving you something that makes you all happy. That is helpful and whatever. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to be one of those people, you can reach us at podreturnffxiv at gmail.com or on Twitter at podreturn. And with that, we hope you enjoyed the episode and have a good day or night. And we will see you next time.